what we're doing about building technical colleges, or what we're doing around 3-year-old preschool. But it is those things that are occupying the bulk of the effort and energy that the government is putting into. In this year's state budget, naturally, there were two top-line things that were the emphasis: health and housing. Health is a problem that needs to be fixed. It's a challenge around the country, and we are prioritising health with the additional resources that we are putting into it. We can speak to that in detail as the night goes on. And housing is an acute need that has really reached boiling point through policy inaction over decades. If I had to solicit you one example of that at a state level, it would be this. For 29 of the last 30 years in South Australia, there has been a net decrease in public housing stock. That is to say, for 29 of the last 30 years in South Australia, across governments, both Liberal and Labor, we have been selling off our public housing stock. In this year's state budget, for the first time ever, we've reversed the savings task, which is code for cuts or efficiency dividends, that have been imposed upon the Housing Trust or Housing SA. And instead of now them having to deliver cuts, we have reversed that, because the way they used to pay for their cuts was to sell off housing stock. And then we've not just reversed that, we've also given them a big funding boost, which means in this year's state budget there's going to be 1,100 extra public housing homes built in South Australia, owned by you, for our most needy South Australians in terms of acute chronic situation in their life. 1,100 extra than what was otherwise the case had we not made those changes in this year's state budget. But bugger me if I can find someone who's in the media who's interested in this. The other thing we did, of course, was we've done a massive land release, because we do need to put more land into the market. We've cut stamp duty, which Stephen can talk to, alongside a whole other range of other reforms. So health and housing is undoubtedly a focus in the budget. But the big picture agenda of investing in 3-year-old preschool, investing in bringing our universities together to get more research and development funding in our state, provide more equity and accessibility to low SES kids getting higher education, is in there. The effort around our hydrogen jobs plan, which I could speak to you about for an hour, but I won't do that to you, which is all about establishing South Australia as the centre of the hydrogen industry that in due course, in my view, in the government's view, will displace gas and coal from our energy markets in the race to decarbonise. All of that agenda sits within the state budget, because the budget is the most important political document that any government comes up with. You can have all the flyers in the world, all the one-page briefs, but it's the budget, which looks like that really demonstrates the sincerity of thoughtful policy effort that underpins the things that we have identified as a priority. Health, education, clearly, but also the decarbonisation of industry in our state and the opportunity it affords, along with the growth of the defence space and cyber sector. I would love, over the course of the time we've got together, to answer all your questions in that regard. There is a lot that we're seeking to do to capitalise on this rare moment that I think we've got in, that if we don't act now, we could regret it for a long time to come. On that note, I think I'm heading over to Stephen to say a few words. Stephen has got the unenviable task of dealing with a cabinet and a premier who wants to always do more. And we do have an ambitious agenda, and Stephen's got the unenviable task of trying to make that all fit, and having to, establish the discipline of the government to make sure that we are making the choices that speak to our policy priorities, but not at the expense of a degree of fiscal responsibility and sustainability of the budget in the long term. So I don't envy his task, but I am very grateful for all of his hard work, and I'll hand over to him, and then I think we're opening it up to questions. Thanks a lot.